6 candidates are in the running for 3 seats on Cupertino City Council. As part of the City Channel's ongoing coverage of this race towards Election Tuesday, you're about to see an up-close and personal introduction to one of those candidates. This is Candidates Q&A with hosts George Moore and Mei Huang, and featuring tonight's Cupertino City Council candidate, Dolly Sandoval.
Hello and welcome to Candidates Q&A. My name is George Moore. I'm a reporter with the Cupertino Courier Weekly.
Hi, this is Mei Huang. I'm from World Journal. It's a Chinese language daily.
And we're going to get started here. This evening we are honored to be joined by Council candidate Dolly Sandoval. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for the offer.
Yeah.
Let me get started here. Given your history and education, what do you think will be unique about the perspective you bring to Cupertino?
Well, because I teach both in the classroom day to day, I teach math over at Los Gatos, I'm actually talking to students about what the future holds for them. And they are, quite frankly, worried about rising housing costs, about the job market, and about what kind of economy and environment we as leaders are leaving for them. They're both excited and they're a little nervous. As a trustee for the Community College District, I have helped to make Foothill De Anza be one of the best college districts across the nation. And I've done that with my expertise in math and financial experience, as well as designing a program mix that works. But the other great thing is that I've been working with current city council people, school board members from both the elementary and the high school district about how the council can be a better partner in this city that we share. Education's extremely important. We all know that it's what's going to make this city survive. And so I'm excited that I'm able to bring some experience and working relationships to this council race.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Dolly, here's my question. When we look at the Cupertino City, we see a city of diversity. And the most recent Census 2000 shows the current population is about 50,000. And in that 50,000, we have 44% of Asian, and Chinese alone is 12,000. Now, I'd like you to share with us, how do you see this, to this cultural and ethnic diversity in this city?
I think diversity is extremely important, and you're right, we are seeing some very dramatic changes from when I grew up in this area. So I think that's exciting personally. I've been able to work with a number of former and current school board members, Michael Chang currently on the city council, to make sure that the programs that the city offers and the schools offer and Foothill De Anza offers address all our needs in the area of diversity. To me, one of the important aspects of being a council member is being to be recognized, have good communication with the diverse neighbors that we all are. So I think I bring that with me in this race, and also as a hopeful council member. Some specific issues I think that we need to address is make sure no matter what is your primary language, that the city offers documents, procedures, processes that are in both your primary language and in English. So that if we have a disaster awareness plan, for example, that the Chinese community, the Asian community in general, are very aware of where they can get city services, county services, etc. They need to be able to communicate with fire and police. We as city officials need to help be a role model in this area and make sure that all our communities, and we have a very diverse city, have access to this information, and that we're actually out promoting and educating our diverse population to what the needs of the city are, finding out what their needs are, and trying to make that bridge occur.
Yeah, it seems you did your homework on this subject, huh? Do you have any plan for more outreach to these, new immigrants here?
Well, what I've been doing on the college board is trying to connect with the new immigrants that we have coming to Foothill De Anza. And so one of the things that I've been invited to often and show up and speak with, introduce myself to, is the different programs that we offer there at the district. I think that's important because first of all, it makes the new immigrant feel welcomed. I think with the Chamber of Commerce having the Asian American Business Lunch is an extremely important endeavor which I support. Because I teach during the day, I rarely get to attend those lunches. But once the election occurs, I'll be on an 80% reduction in my schedule, and then we'll be able to frequent those lunches. I think having that connection, whether it's through lunches or the 5 C's program here in Cupertino, or through other brown bag type ideas, forums, etc., I'd be more than happy to go to the community and ask, what are your needs? And then tell them also, what are the needs of the city? I have a pretty good relationship in years past throughout my elected life and as a teacher with the different diverse newspapers. And so I'm hoping we can continue that conversation.
Thank you.
Sure.
And Dolly, do you have any goals to improve traffic congestion and overall safety on the streets?
Wow. Traffic congestion and overall safety on the streets is probably one of the #1 concerns that I have heard about as I'm walking precincts. Particularly streets that are heavily utilized by neighborhoods. I'll talk specifically in the Rancho Rinconada area. I was just walking those precincts this past week, and residents there are very concerned about how fast cars move. So I asked them, what would you like to see occur? They'd like to see either those wider speed bumps implemented or more stop signs, and quite frankly, more patrol of our current sheriff's deputies. Overall, I think whatever we do with traffic, excuse me, let me back up a second. Overall, whatever we do in terms of economic development in this city has to also deal with the traffic. So whether we're going to build housing or whether we're going to redevelop Valco Mall, we need to also take into account neighborhoods, existing neighborhoods, and the traffic impacts. Light synchronization has been a fabulous wonder here in Cupertino. Going up De Anza Boulevard or down Stevens Creek, more often than not, you can hit green light after green light after green light, which is a great idea that the city was able to manage because it gets people through the city and the thoroughfares faster. But as I said, as we look at how the growth occurs in this city, we really have to utilize smart growth principles and educate our residents, quite frankly, on alternative transportation methods.
Thank you.
And Dolly, 6 qualified people are running for the seats,
Right.
but only 3 can make it.
That's correct.
Yeah. What do you think you can do a better job than the others? And if you are elected, what's the top priority job you want to handle?
Okay, let me talk about the race itself for a moment. I think I bring the experience, the breadth, and the knowledge to this race. As an elected trustee for Foothill De Anza for 10 years, as a classroom teacher, and as somebody extremely active in the community here in Cupertino, I think that sets me aside from the other candidates. The financial knowledge that I bring to this race is immense. I right now am fiduciarily responsible for a budget 6 times that of Cupertino's. I also have instituted a large amount of financial checks and balances at the college district to make sure that the finances are kept intact. With good finances, then we'll be able to talk about how to serve the residents of the city even better. And that's really on a tide, though. You asked for the one priority, but that's really tied with serving the residents better and talking about making our neighborhoods and our quality of life stay high. And that has to do with, again, economic development, how we build housing, and bettering the relationship between our cities and our school districts.
Yeah, can you single out one critical moment? That's the time you said, hey, I want to do this. I want to run for the City Council of Cupertino. You want to share that moment with us?
Sure. I think probably in about March, I had a number of phone calls from all different folks here in the city that said, hey, Don Burnett is termed out. John Stanton has already left his post. Why don't you run for one of the 3 seats on the city council? I actually didn't determine that I was going to be a candidate, though, until July, because I wanted to make sure that during the second semester of school last year that I focused all my energy on my students. But mid-July came, I filed the appropriate papers, and I've been off and running ever since.
Is it realistic to believe Cupertino can limit growth but still provide housing solutions in the present and the future?
Absolutely. And in fact, I'd be very much an advocate for that. What we need to utilize is smart growth principles. So we have to think about how can we create housing that will address the current need for housing in an equitable manner. So that to me says put housing and higher density housing, condos, townhomes, smaller houses on lots that are easy to get to by mass transit corridors or mass transportation areas. So if you look at land on Stevens Creek at Tantau, that's a great area to address and put major housing on because you can get onto 280 from 2 different directions. The transit lines run right down Stevens Creek, and you also, if you have to get over to Highway 85, can come up De Anza Boulevard. No particular neighborhood currently resides in that area on that north side of Stevens Creek. And so it's not like when we build housing there, people will be cutting through other people's neighborhoods. So to me, that's a smart growth idea. People have talked about, and I support housing coming downtown to this town center area. I think that we need to make sure that we have a mixed use concept also, where we'll have housing and offices on the first, possibly second, let me back up. Retail and offices on the first or second level, and then housing above that. But we do need to make sure whenever we build housing and approve projects that we take into the total impact of that neighborhood and the school system so that nobody comes up short.
What about the library? It's a big, giant project. Yeah, we're talking about $19 million.
That's right.
Yeah. What's your viewpoint about building this new library?
Let me say first off, this Cupertino library is the most used county library in the system. There are more people who come in and check books in, take books out of, the video, the multimedia objects, whether it's tapes, VCR tapes, audio tapes. So this county library is extremely utilized. It's also crowded. If you've ever walked in there, there's no room currently for groups of students to study unless you're using the room downstairs to read to a lot of people, like the children's room. There's no area really in that library that's feasible for groups of people. And yet when you think of a library, there are groups of people who want to get together and either study or review a concept, do research projects together, etc. So I believe that we do need to build a new library. And as I understand the current budget, we have found the ways, found the means to put the money aside to build that library. Some of it will come out of the capital projects revenue pot at the moment. Others of it will be this kind of somewhat convoluted and complex bond initiative that's going to go forward. But and that's city internal bonding. And then some of it will be fundraised by the community. But I think this community spoke out several years ago about how important the library is. The city has been great leaders in finding the funds to create this expansion to occur. There's some more work to be done, and I'm going to be very excited to see that go forward and help do that fundraising.
What goals do you have regarding the youth in Cupertino?
You know, it's kind of interesting. The youth are so important because as a classroom teacher, I know that what we do for our kids today will pay off tremendously in the years ahead. Yet, we don't have very much for them to do here. They can hang out on corners. They ride their skateboards probably in more places than we want to know about. So we have to think about what kinds of things can we do as a city. I think we need to have a teen center type programs so that youth can go someplace after a football game, so that on Friday nights and Saturday nights they have something to do. We've talked a lot in this city about having a skateboard park, and I quite frankly think it's a great idea, but I haven't decided if I want it concentrated in one area or if I want skating, ramps, etc., kind of strewn throughout the city so that our youth have a variety of places to go. But we need to make sure that whatever projects we move forward with as a council, that when we do it in a fiscally sensitive manner, but that we also take their ideas into account and say, what do they want from the city? There's a lot of kids who go to school here that we need to help provide services for. I think an idea that the city council and the school district, particularly the elementary school district, should be thinking of is after-school homework centers, and or also have some kind of daycare available. Daycare is extremely popular and extremely expensive, except we have working parents and we have kids who get out of school pretty early, and we know that between the hours of 3 and 6 p.m., more teens get in trouble during those hours than any other time. So let's think about how to merge that after school time with city services, homework centers, even just recreational centers where we can really engage all our youth in positive activities.
Great, thank you.
About your campaign strategy, is it going to be a lot different
You want me to
from
give
last
away
year?
my strategy?
Well, just briefly, is it going to be a very much different from last year?
Well, it's not very much different, quite frankly, than any other times that I've run. I ran for Foothill De Anza 10 years ago against 9 opponents for 3 seats on the board. I worked my heart out. I walked precincts, I went to community events, I went to community forums and discussions. Being born and raised in this area helped me have a leg up because I knew people in the community throughout the entire community. Here in Cupertino, it's no different. As I said, I already started walking precincts. We'll be phoning precincts that I won't have a chance to walk. I'm out at a number of different community events, whether it's through my board work at Cupertino Community Services or the Role Model Program, Social Advocates for Youth, or my work with Foothill De Anza. I think it's all about grassroots outreach. Yeah. In terms of the endorsement side of my strategy is to try and get as many endorsements as possible. So I have a number of former and current city council members that have endorsed my candidacy, the League of Conservation Voters, the Stevens Canyon Homeowners Association has just endorsed my candidacy. So it's the same strategy. It's through hard work and talking to voters that I hope to get elected.
What do you feel the most important aspect of the general plan is going to be redoing the general plan?
Growth in general. I think the town center project is going to be very important because it's a new concept. We talk about the city of Cupertino having no there there, and yet this will help provide for one, and I'm excited by that. I think if we have someplace in the city that people can walk to, utilize some services, take care of some basic needs, and meet other people here in the city, out on the grassy area, at the library, in the community, the proposed community building. I think that's exciting. But I also think that there's smaller pockets of growth that we need to address. Over on Imperial Avenue in the Monte Vista area, I think it's 67 townhomes have just been approved to be built. Well, you have Nell's Deli down there, you have Vivi's, you have another coffee shop, espresso shop. Well, what we need to do is make sure that what we're approving at our planning stages, the planning commission, make sure that what we approve and what the city council approves is what we actually need. And so it'll be growth all over the place. Making sure that we protect our hills, our hillsides, and save some of that green space for generations to come.
Yeah, my question is very much on the same track.
Okay.
Well, Cupertino, like every other city, is changing. What do you want it to turn to be in this coming 4 years? And so it's in what way you think it's going to be different from now we see it?
Right. Well, I think one of the exciting things that we've seen over the last 4 years is there's been more community festivals, and there's been more people coming, not just from Cupertino, but throughout the entire area here. In fact, upcoming is going to be the Moon Festival pretty quickly. It used to be primarily, it was the Asian community that attended that. Last year, I think you saw a greater diversity of folks. We're having a Persian festival in a couple of weeks. And so to me, that's exciting that we're starting to see different groups starting to share their customs with the community at large. Getting to know your neighbors is going to be an important aspect, because to have good neighborhoods, you need to know who your neighbors are. Like I say, being born and raised here, I was raised in a court primarily, and I knew every family in the court, and every family had kids that I played with. I live not too far here from the town center, and I know my neighbors, but I don't know my whole street. So I think disaster preparedness is a great organizing tool to get out and meet your neighbors with. Having school events is a great organizing tool, whether you have students in classes or not. And so I'm excited for that type of activity, is building our neighborhoods up and getting to know our neighbors and moving together as a city.
You mentioned fresh ideas into the city. What kind of new ideas do you hope to bring to fruition if you're elected?
Well, one of the things that I have is a lot of energy. As I told you before, I teach during the day, but I also serve on a variety of nonprofit boards. And to me, it's not much different than business, quite frankly. Talking about networking and building partnerships, I think I would just be a great asset to the city because of the network that I bring, the experience that I bring as an elected official, and also being able to go and solve problems. You know, the 10 years that I've been on the Foothill de Anza board, we've had a number of problems, from finances to how are we going to hire and retain our employees because of the cost of housing. Well, we've brought people together throughout our district and throughout the city in terms of helping us solve this problem. We don't have big solutions yet, but it's that kind of creativity and energy that I think will help solve these problems. Because quite frankly, and the viewers may be shocked to know this, but I don't have all the answers, but I definitely think I can bring together people who will help us find those answers.
So you have a group of people like you, a think tank, and having ideas for you?
I think I would do that once elected, yes, but I just mean in terms of at Foothill de Anza, having friends in the high school district and leaders in the school elementary district here at who are involved in the city, whether it's through Rotary or the Chamber, and bringing them together and helping us all brainstorm how do we get to the next step. Mm-hmm. How do we contain the quality of life but yet build more housing? How do we make sure that our police officers, our firefighters, our nurses, our teachers have some place to live here in the city? As well as all the support staff that go with those very important jobs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, although we talk about traffic already, but I'd like you to pinpoint on the parking problem happening in the neighborhood
right.
of Monte Vista High. Do you have a quick solution for that?
No quick solutions, unfortunately. In fact, it's funny you mentioned that. We just met recently with the Tri-School Action Committee and the parents and non-parents that are involved with that. I have come to believe that permit parking is going to help preserve those streets right close to the school. But I think what we need to do is really master plan the whole idea, as opposed to say, well, this street is included in permit parking, this street is not. But the other solutions that I think the school district has been trying to stress, to a great deal of success, at least for the moment, which is having students carpool, having parents who drive kids to school carpool more, and asking the kids to ride their bikes or walk to school. The other alternative transportation issue that I think we can talk about is an organization called All Trans, which has set up a website. And if you go to the Cupertino School District site, you can log right into it, link over to it. And it has where you type in your zip code in your street, and then you're connected to other parents right in that area. So one parent that would normally take one child living next door to or down the street from another parent who would take one child can now have an easy carpool buddy, if you will, and then it'll be fewer cars going into the school there. Also, I sit on the Valley Transportation Authority's Citizens Advisory Commission, and we just secured a $3 million grant for De Anza College to be a hub for the bus, the transportation system. So I think we'll be able to get VTA to supply for us, probably at some cost, and I haven't figured this all out yet, but supply for us shuttle buses, small shuttle buses that we can use in these impacted areas. And so parents can then put their kids not on necessarily a little yellow school bus, but a VTA bus that would run a particular route every day during those peak hours. To me, that's the way we really integrate all our governmental and community services.
Great. Well, thank you. We have to wrap it up.
Oh, we do?
Yep.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for taking the time and joining us.
I appreciate the offer. I really do.
Thank you, your answers.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Tune into the City Channel for local election information and coverage through the November 6th election. Program schedules can be found at various locations, including City Hall, the Cupertino Public Library, the Cupertino Scene, and the city's website. While at the website, you can find more information on City Council candidates and on Measure D. You will also find helpful links to voter information pages. Exercise your right to vote on November 6th by heading to the polls.